All right, folks. So, um, today's a big day. We're going to talk about the selection process for the Equity Advisory Panel and Technical Advisory Group. We've been we'd thrown out kind of a general idea of what that was going to look like, and so we're going to cover the actual. Here's the final selection process. We had to tweak it a little bit because we did extend the uh, the application for another 2 weeks, actually 2.5 weeks. But really exciting. We got over 30 applicants to both the EAP and the TAG. So I sent those out on Monday. If you've had a chance to look through them, you've seen some of the really exciting folks that we have willing to come support this collaborative effort. So we'll take a little time for some general discussion as well. If folks have immediate thoughts on in applicants or just the general pool, or if there's gaps or anything. And then I've got a couple reminders for you, as well as a couple of kind of light asks from one around the collaborative and one kind of state-based. And then we'll talk a little bit about upcoming meetings, although, as always, agendas are tentative. So just a little bit of a recap. We sent the invitations out for the TAG and EAP on the 5th of August. We had originally had those due back the 30th, so gave folks 4 weeks, but decided to extend that out a little bit more to the 15th. You saw my email on Monday with both the proposed with the question and the list, and then the application responses that we got from everyone. We are going to walk through the actual decision kind of components, but basically we're asking different kinds of input from various people, and asking that be due on the 26th, which is a week from today, and preferably by 2 p.m. because we need to aggregate that, and then the core team is going to meet at 9 a.m. the next morning to make the final selections. And really, it would be nice if I could get your input by 2 p.m. the previous day to have time to kind of pull that all together. Then that gives us that day, and then the following Monday to send confirmations and meeting appointments, and we still hit our roughly month window before the first meeting on 10/29. So that's kind of the overall process. And what I want to focus on next is kind of this, what we mean by the core team scores and the steering committee input. So for both committees, we've established a rubric, a scoring protocol. They're a little different, and large part because the committee roles are different. So we just kind of wanted to walk through what the rubric is with you for each of them, see if there's any feedback, and then what we're asking for of everyone individually. So the scoring rubrics, I know all of you are super, super busy. So the scoring rubrics are going to be done by the core team members. So unless you're a core team member, you don't have to go to this level of detail, but everybody's going to have an opportunity to provide input. So for the TAG, one of the things that we felt was really important, and actually for both committees, is that if we had organizations that signed letters of commitment that went in with our application and they applied to the TAG or EAP, really felt that we needed to honor that commitment that they had made. And so there are 5 applicants on the TAG that their organizations did sign letters of commitment, and so we're considering them shoo-ins. Then with everyone else, the score will be a total of 20 points, 1 to 5 each on 4 areas. Why they wanted to be involved with the work of the collaborative, what did they see as the key priorities to addressing resilience in buildings. We really wanted to know what kind of work they've done trying to create innovative solutions to problems. And then also, even though this is a technical group, in order to kind of make the work with the EAP as seamless as possible, we really wanted to know what kind of experience folks had working with marginalized communities. There are a couple of other questions that we asked around work scope and geographic scope and additional information that we're not scoring on, but we're using them as kind of balancing types of criteria. So we want to make sure that we've got a good balance across the state. So we're getting folks from each region, that we're getting good representation, folks who work in rural communities as well as urban communities, that we've got local practitioners as well as national thought leaders. We also want to make sure that we get a good range of both residential and commercial focus of what the kind of work they do, as well as new construction and retrofits. And then we have another category that we're like considering bonuses. And we didn't get as much in terms of applications for New Mexico. And we really want to kind of make sure that we've got sufficient representation there. So we're going to treat New Mexico as kind of a bonus, just because we want as much balance there as well as we want balance across Arizona. We have some with tribal connections, and that's something that we want to emphasize because this is an opportunity to extend, our engagement to tribal partners, and that's a really key way of doing it. Then also recognizing established public partners. So for example, you might have noticed we got an application from the manager for the state's weatherization program. And, because they're in a lot of ways an implementation partner in this space, they bring a lot of key knowledge and a lot of relationships and things that they can leverage. So we want to recognize that. And then finally, your input will be an important part of that kind of bonus part as well. So, and we'll get to the your input part in a minute. And then I'm going to, before I turn it over to Mary to talk through the EAP rubric, thoughts on this? Are folks, is it clear, comfortable?
I think it's remarkable. It's really well thought out. Really, I think people could look at that and go, that's a really fair treatment, and you're at the place, your police priorities are excellent. So nice work on that, all the contributors.
All right. Awesome, Mark. Anyone else? Seeing some thumbs up. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary and let her talk through the EAP rubric.
Thank you, Leslie. Hi, everyone. Good Thursday. Yes, I want to echo what Leslie shared, and that is that we had such an exciting pool of applicants on both the TAG and the EAP. I think it's something to be really proud of. And while we only have limited space on both, specifically and especially on the EAP, we only have room for 12 folks because of the budget. I said this the other day that I think if we closed our eyes and just pointed to randomly 12 people, we could be proud of the selection of folks. Everyone was qualified, a dedicated group from across the state of Arizona. I echo that there is a gap in New Mexico, but we have some ways that we're thinking about closing that gap, having a kind of secondary application process from New Mexico later, but we can talk about that in the discussion. So just to say, really exciting. Thank you, everyone who sent it out to folks. We had a wonderful, we have representation from all over the state, so it's exciting. For us, what we concentrated on was thinking about people who are most impacted, new partnerships. Of course, anyone who signed up would automatically be on this group. One of the partners would already be a part of this group, but we really wanted to think about what would new partnerships look like. who are communities that are most impacted. And we're super excited to say that we had a very large pool of Native folks, very, very qualified, interesting backgrounds from many, many different parts of the state, who threw their name into the ring to be a part of this and really contribute their expertise to this. So here you can see some of the ways that we're thinking through this. Does the individual have experience in place-based community engagement? So we wanted folks that really knew their place, that were working in place, that were committed to being stewards of place. So you can think about placekeeping as a practice here. We wanted to see people who are dedicated to making their communities stronger and better. Has the individual directly experienced the negative impacts? So oftentimes we have representatives in these groups who can kind of speak theoretically and well-intended, but we really wanted to hone in on who are folks that are living every day with and experiencing climate change in ways that are very direct. Now, of course, we all can look at the summer and say we're all experiencing it directly, which is true, but we wanted to think about mostly vulnerable communities and marginalized communities who wouldn't usually be a part of this process, and centering those voices. Again, then we focused on equitable community engagement. So folks that really think about equity in their work, think about and practice in many, many different ways, not just institutionally and not just through nonprofits, but thinking about mutual aid, thinking about communities that maybe we have an outreach to. So we wanted to make sure we were thinking about folks that were already doing this work. And also then encouraging unique perspectives. I think what's exciting about the Equity Accountability Partners is the more innovative and outside of the box thinkers that we have in the room, I think the more generative and exciting the ideas will be with TAG. So we're excited about that connection and building that bridge together, which we'll talk about at a later date. And then lastly, does this individual have experience with building codes or in some way with the built environment? So what's really exciting, we had folks from the disability community, accessible design. I mean, we're really thinking about what are the different ways we can engage building codes from different types of expertise. So that was really how we focused in on this group. And again, just echoing what Leslie said, we had a very exciting pool. It's going to be a difficult decision, but an exciting one. I'll close with that and pass it back to Leslie for time.
All right, cool. Thanks, Mary. But but before we move on to the next one, I want to open this one up again too. Thoughts from folks? Well, okay, seeing claps. All right.
Yeah, nice work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Teamwork.
So let's get to the third piece. Like I said, we're the rubric, because we have so many applications and, you know, not overly complicated rubrics, but it's going to take time to go through this process. And we also didn't want to muddy it with too many folks having to go through the scoring and then averaging or weighing or however that. We're going to have the core team, which are 8 organizations, do the formal rubrics. And those organizations are, of course, NBI and LISC, who kind of are facilitating both of those committees. Then we have ICC, Institute for Energy Solutions, SWEEP, Illume, the Nature Conservancy, and City of Tucson. So we're basically the core of what we consider the implementation team. But we know that there's none of us that are familiar with every single one of these applicants. And that's actually great. It's actually great that we are going to have new voices in the room. But we want to make sure that we're looking to your knowledge about your stakeholders and what's happening in your communities. So to get that input in the simplest fashion, we're going to put out a couple of surveys after the meeting and basically ask this question for both sets of applicants. And it's really based on your work in your community, your knowledge of your stakeholders. And we just want to make sure that if there are factors that you think are important for us to weigh in this decision process on top of the rubric scores, that you have an opportunity to communicate that. And it could be, just elevating a particular potential member because they're a core stakeholder in your community, or because you've done amazing work and they're a trusted partner and their voice resonates within your community, and you think it's important that that be reflected. But it can also be, we know we all, especially as the jurisdictions, do stakeholder processes, and we also know that not everybody plays nicely with others, and this really is meant to be a collaborative, respectful effort. And so if there's anyone that you feel that would be working at odds, not that folks can't have a different perspective than others in the room, but really not working within that kind of collaborative intent, and would potentially be working against the actual end goals of the collaborative, just making sure that we're aware of that. Given the applicants that we got, I don't know that that's going to be the case for anyone. But again, we wanted to make sure that since we're pulling from stakeholders from all over the region, that any knowledge that you have, we can incorporate it. So to recap, we'll have eight organizations scoring on the actual rubric. You all will get the survey and provide that input. We will aggregate that. We're asking for that next Thursday by 2:00, and this will all go into the follow-up email from this meeting, along with the links to the surveys. And we'll aggregate that. The core team will meet the morning of the 27th, which is next Friday, determine those initial rosters. And I say initial as a nod to what Mary said earlier, that we may have some gaps that we want to fill, but also we understand that given people's bandwidth and time constraints, people moving into new positions, changing focus as we move through this project, that the membership of these groups probably are very likely to evolve. So this is really kind of our starting point, and we hope to continue to grow these committees in the way that really kind of meets all of our needs as the collaborative, and respects the needs of the individual members. So with that, I'm going to open it up. I want to so feel free to comment on the process, but also if you've looked at the applicant list and if there's anything that stands out to you, and in particular gaps, I hope you can share that. And I'm actually going to kick this off by picking on poor Lisa, my friend from Las Cruces, New Mexico. And just, Lisa, curious if you have any thoughts about how both on the technical side and the equity side, we might kind of better engage organizations in your state to be a part of this project through these committees.
Well, I have a pragmatic suggestion in that I had a holdout to offer someone from ours that's new to our staff, well, return to our staff, that could have stepped into this position. She's going to be hired starting Monday, so I wasn't sure that she could get through all the hoops, but she did. And her name is Jenny Hernandez. She used to work for me, and she just left Green Latinos and did the outreach nationally that way. So for climate action, she's worked with NBI, and I think that she would be a good recruit. The problem, and up north, it's a little bit tougher because everybody gets tapped multiple times on there that the best workers are the the ones that are grabbed there. But I can certainly if you, I think it's I think I'm sorry that I didn't step up and help you more readily because there is a special technique of harassment in New Mexico that I could probably push for on this. And I would be happy to still try if you feel that there's an absence of that.
Awesome. Well,
If you don't, I know, because Mary's already said that there's a great list, so I don't want to just because they're in the, in the wrong state, in the right state. Yeah, I don't want you to feel that you have an imbalance just because I was in a black hole of work for the last month. But I'm still happy to help.
Lisa, don't blame yourself. Everyone's overloaded, and we have other New Mexico partners. So I certainly didn't want to make you feel like you were.
No, that's right. I thrive on guilt. But Jenny's also a member of TICTAC, that one of the EPA things. So I can say that she would be a real asset to it. And she did building codes, like I said, with NBI, and is working on a low income retrofit program with me here. So I think that she'd be able to add a lot of really important dimension to the program. So if I'd taken one off your list, that would be helpful.
And I see Mary's indicated she may follow up with you.
I can send her resume or whatever you need or if she has to do a letter. She's very responsive in that. And I know she's really supportive of everything you all are doing, as am I.
And I see a shout out from Christy too about Jenny. So that's cool.
There you go.
All right, others. Process, applicant pool, thoughts, suggestions? I'm hearing quiet. I take silence as there's no problem and there's no gaps and no issues. So, all right. Seeing thumbs up. Cool. All right, everyone. So we'll follow this process. It sounds like folks are comfortable both with the rubrics and this ask for your input. So we should have that decision next Friday. We will let you all know as we let the selected individuals know. But we also wanted to emphasize that anyone who's not selected is still going to be encouraged to engage in this process. We're maintaining an interested parties list and going to emphasize there are other ways to engage. There's going to be community meetings that LISC are running. There's going to be direct work we're going to have some additional community-based organizations doing. There'll be comment periods on codes and other tools. So there's going to be lots of ways that folks can provide input, and a pathway to getting information on those opportunities is one of the core components of at least the initial phase of the project website that is being kind of established right now. It's still in process, and I want to give a shout out to everyone who at the last meeting provided really great input to kind of get that initial sense laid out and communicated to the web designers so that they can try to develop a product that fits with the feel and the tone and the goals of the collaborative. So thank you all. I am next on the agenda. So a couple reminders and then a couple of asks. First, the survey to the building officials has gone out. It's been out for a couple of weeks. If you have or your organization has not taken that survey, please, please, please do. Even though you're a core part of this project and on the steering committee, your perspectives in the context of others from around the state and New Mexico are valuable. Lisa, I might tap you to see if we can't get someone. I don't think someone from your building department has responded. So if we could get maybe little help connecting there, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Sure.
So I'll reach out to you. But we definitely want to get a good response. I think we're getting close to about a quarter, at least in Arizona, of the building departments that have responded, which is what we committed to DOE to get. But the more we can get people's perspectives and voices and understand what the needs are, the better we can, deliver the intended outcomes of this project. So getting those survey responses is really great. Also, September is the end of the 4th project quarter for this project. So I will be, for those of you who are the jurisdictions and doing in-kind, I'll be reaching out with a reminder for doing your Q4 reporting if you made in-kind commitments. Kevin will be reaching out to subrecipients on your side of the reporting so we can get that all aggregated. I do want to point out, as I was putting this together and thinking about it being Q4, meaning Q4 of the project, it really just kind of hit the impact of the delay in getting the award finalized with DOE, that the end of this month marks a full year that this project has been going. And the fact that we're just now taking this really meaningful step of getting the 2 advisory committees stood up, getting the project website, I think just shows how much of an impact that had. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to all of you for hanging in through all that delay and the slow walk that this project has been up to this point. That's going to change. So this is really the start of where, as they put it, the rubber's going to hit the road. We're going to start being out there, publicly engaging, and more and more folks are going to hear about this. We're going to start working on the codes and the tools. We're going to start rolling out training. And again, thanks to those of you who've been working with ICC to determine what training would work best for your programs. So I think it's exciting days ahead.
Yeah,
so,
Leslie, if I can just reiterate,
yes,
the appreciation MBI has for all of you for sticking around through the 4 quarters that we've had so far. Kind of, right? Q1 and Q3. Q3 we had the work pause. Q1 we were sorting things out, but yeah, we have the 1-year extension and we're realigning the dates. Well, I guess, Leslie, it's been a 6-month extension in terms of realigning the dates.
it's 6 and 6. So we pushed everything out, everything that had not been done when we did the work pause, we pushed out 6 months. We didn't want to go any more than that because I know folks are really keen on the timing of when the Regional Resilience Code will be published. And if we push it any further, we push that into 2027. And even though it's going to take some time and it's not going to get published as soon as I know some people would like, we really wanted to make sure that it came out in time to be part of a 2027 code update cycle. And the thinking is that Regional Resilience Code, we had originally said based on the 2024, we'll certainly draw from that, but I think there's an opportunity to look forward to what provisions we think are going to happen in the 2027. So we didn't want to push it too far. And then there's another 6 months that we're basically putting at the end. We'll extend a few milestones out into that just because we have to have something per quarter, but that gives us a little bit of flexibility on the tail end of this too if we need that additional 6 months. So that was DOE's recommendation, was to take a full year, and this felt like the best compromise of not pushing things out too far but giving ourselves that flexibility. So thanks,
Yes.
Kevin, for pointing that out.
Yeah, so 6-month extension on the deadlines, but if you see mention of a 1-year extension, but things have not been pushed out further. We have a 6-month sort of 2-quarter end period to wrap things up past the 6-month extension.
Okay. I'm just looking at the chat about the survey. Mary, we can talk about process because do you want a full survey or do we want to do it some other way? So we'll talk about that offline. Okay. All right, the asks. I've got one, it's more just an okay from you all. And then Christy, are you speaking to the one Karen wanted to talk about?
No, Karen's actually here.
Oh, she is? I can't see everybody's name. Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure. All right, so the first ask, like I said, is just an okay from you all. It's super exciting. So one of the goals of this collaborative was we wanted it to be done in a way where we invited engagement by other communities. We wanted this to be in a lot of ways a safe space. That was kind of one of the driving goals is, you know, strengthen numbers and collective action. And could we create a supportive environment for other communities to feel like they could maybe take things further. A couple weeks ago, I got a request from the building official for the city of Chandler, who they're taking the 2027, their Board of Appeals just recommended to take the 2027 I-codes to the mayor and council for adoption. And it includes the 2027 IEC, 2024. I keep wanting to say 27. This joint code cycle, like what just came out and what's getting developed, is confusing me. The 2024 I-codes, including the 2024 IECC, and he's asked for a letter of support from the collaborative, which I think is super exciting. Tucson, personally, our organization is very very proud to say we would support them adopting the 2024 IECC. We've had a discussion with MBI about having it on MBI letterhead, but on behalf of the collaborative. I just wanted to both share that with you and just see if anyone has any concerns about us doing that as, you know, MBI on behalf of the collaborative, putting out that statement of support for the city of Chandler. Thoughts? People okay with that?
Great.
Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, so we will do that. They would like it by the end of the month. So Kevin, I'll work with you. I sent you guys, he sent a template. And so we can work with that and get it going. When I mentioned this to our deputy director, her thought was we should do the same thing when we get ready to take our 2024 I-codes to mayor and council. So Chandler might have started a trend. So who knows? But I thought it was it's good for them, and I feel like it's a really nice acknowledgement of the value of what we're doing here as the collaborative. So very exciting. All right, on to the second ask. So Karen, who is with SWEEP, I will turn it over to you to kind of explain the situation and what you're hoping folks will do.
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Leslie, for the time to speak. This won't take very long, and I appreciate everyone's time. And this may not apply to everyone, but I just wanted to give folks that might be interested in this opportunity, some time to answer any questions or, just give you some broad information. So you may be aware that the Arizona Corporation Commission in Arizona has been signaling interest in revisiting and repealing its nearly 15-year energy efficiency resource standard that we've had in place in Arizona since approximately 2010. And just about 2.5 weeks ago, we found a filing from the commission staff has recently launched with a draft modification to the standard, which would essentially repeal the entire standard that's on the books on Arizona's administrative code. And right now we're in a 30-day comment period opportunity for entities to respond to this proposed rule change, and also a chance if people want to respond to the preliminary economic impact statement that staff has filed as well, which is normally meant to provide a quantitative and kind of broad look at the economic impacts of policies that the ACC enacts. And unfortunately, this particular statement did not provide some of the quantified, verified impacts from energy efficiency from multiple different perspectives that we do have in Arizona. So I wanted to present as an opportunity for this group, if anyone is interested, especially those that have engaged with any of the utilities, either existing facilities programs, new construction, or other opportunities related to DSM. There is an opportunity to respond to the draft proposed elimination of the standard, but really more of an opportunity, from my perspective, to show the story of energy efficiency from a building's perspective, and to show the quantified impacts of energy efficiency that we know and that we can provide as a resource to utility regulators. So the deadline for that coming up is on Tuesday, October 1st at end of day. If anyone is interested in filing a letter, some folks on the line I see, I probably already reached out to you, and I'm happy to coordinate again. But if anyone is interested in additional information, I'll put my email in the chat. But again, the opportunity today is just to file any case studies, reports, or just anything from your perspective in terms of the quantified impacts of energy efficiency and your overall view on the use of energy efficiency policy from a statewide level. So I think that's all I have, Leslie. Happy to take any questions, or folks have just general comments as well.
Karen, do you have a template letter that you're circulating to folks that we could share kind of as a starting point if folks wanted to comment?
I do, yes. So if it would be easier, I can just send that to you, Leslie, as well as some information with the deadline and talking points as well.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. And I can send that out to everyone, including folks that weren't able to make this call.
Great, thank
you. Does
you.
anyone have any questions for Karen about what's happening here with the ACC?
Great, thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Karen. All right, we are going to get done early today, which is really exciting because that probably is not going to happen again. We've got packed agendas coming up, so I want to emphasize these are tentative. Really, what's going to drive the work that we need to do over the next couple of months is what's actually due. So this current quarter, our milestones that are due were, getting the EAP and the tag set up and getting that initial project website, at least in beta form. And so that was kind of why we focused on what we have over the last few months to kind of hit those milestones. The next two pieces that we're driving towards is a community engagement plan that is due to DOE by the end of this year. And that's also going to set the stage for what the community, not just an overall communication process, but the actual meetings and sessions and specific engagement that will be done in communities. LISC has indicated they really want that to be place-based as much as possible. And so there's a need to kind of have some conversations about what we're going to do in communities, what particular events, the role of jurisdictions. So that's going to be really exciting. So we'll be coming with pieces of that to you in upcoming meetings. The other thing that we're driving towards is ICC, and I believe Chris, are the fearless leader of the International Energy Conservation Code, is on our call. But in order to get the Regional Resilience Code drafted and published in the time frame that we're looking at, ICC, Chris particularly, wants to have a sense of like the high level framework that this is going to involve. And that's not necessarily like the topical focus areas, but more, questions like, is it an overlay? Is it an appendix? Is it some other kind of structure? We've talked about various different formats this might take. We've talked about it potentially being tiered. We've talked about like rural versus urban needs. There's been discussion of prescriptive versus performance, a blend. So it's those kinds of decision points that we need to be shooting for the end of this year. So even though these are tentative, we're going to start to work towards getting those two things accomplished. I know it's a lot, so we're going to try to be really focused in terms of the decision points we bring to you. But there may be some documents that need to get circulated outside of the actual steering committee meetings that we'd like you to provide input on. There's still a little discussion, Mary alluded to this earlier, around fully fleshing out the roles and the relationship between the EAP and the TAG and the Code Development Working Group. And so all those kinds of things will be coming to you. I said this last month and I did not do it. We still need to set the 2025 calendar. I'll get those meetings out. We'll just, the timing of these seems to work pretty well. So we'll continue on that. And like I said earlier, I'm really excited to kind of get this really moving, get the ball rolling, and really start to roll up our sleeves and do the work, get to the outcomes that we set at the beginning of this process. So that's all I have. Kevin, do you want to add anything at this point?
No, at this point, no. I think we can give the 15 minutes back to people to spend next Thursday on the survey and get it back to us by 2.
Yep. Well, hopefully before next Thursday. So yes,
Hopefully,
I will get out a follow-up email. I'll send out the slides. I will send the survey to everyone along with, the timing and instructions. Core team members, I'll get you the final rubrics, and we've got like a little Excel spreadsheet for you to enter your scores in. And yeah, and anything else from anyone for the good of the order? All right. Well, as Kevin said, you get 15 minutes back in your day. And thanks again, everyone, so much.
Thanks, Leslie and Mary.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
I love the together mode.